I went ahead and pulled the step motor out and pull the screws off of this. Pull the motor back and see if I can just clean up the armature and the brushes in it and possibly salvage this motor instead of spending 160 bucks on this thing. These screws on here are T20H torque screws, and then I just got a 1/4 inch socket on there. Okay, you got to remove this screw, and there's a real small keeper on that gear. Then you pull this cover off, pull your gear out. Be careful not to lose the cam locks in there, but it looks like mine is starting to come apart. This is sold as a complete unit, and well, it's not looking good on the home front for salvaging this, but we'll continue on. I've got the end cap off of here, and I don't know if we can get a good picture of these magnets, but they look to be in good shape. Bearing at the bottom looks good. There's our brushes and armature right there. We're going to try and clean up. Putting these little brushes back in might be a little interesting. Almost looks like a hot spot right there, but I don't think so. I think that's just debris from the brushes. Hard to get it to focus here. Alright, so I've got this completely removed. One thing I want to say is, as you're pulling this out of the housing, try to really protect the springs on those brushes. I was trying my best to protect it, and I still had one vanish on me. Did manage to find it, but those little itty bitty springs right there would be rather difficult to find if it got any kind of space to take off. I'm going to go ahead and hammer and cloth this down, clean up these brushes here a little bit on the curve. Not too much, I don't want to mess with them too much, but you can kind of see how that's shaded at one side. Just try and get rid of that and clean it up a little more. Alright, so I just used some 1500 wet dry paper. Cleaned up that armature good. You just want to take the varnish marks off. You're still going to see where the brushes were running. That's not a big deal. Just clean this up good. I'm just going to clean up this gear good and repack it with some white lithium based grease. Then we can start reassembling. Alright, so I just put some of this super white all over this gear. This is actually more than I needed, but the reason I did that is there's obvious slop in this at this point, so hopefully some of the grease will take up a little of the slop. Anyway, we can start the reassembly process. And I got the cam locks back in there, and now I'll just slide the armature and screw drive back in, and then we got to connect those brushes. That'll be the fun part. Alright, slid the drive gear back in, cleaned up my plate, and we'll screw that back down. Alright, so I used a couple of paper clips to pin the springs back, and then I set the one brush in there, and then I popped this brush back, and this whole thing is going to slide in, and then I can remove the paper clips and put spring tension on the brushes. There it is, it's all back together. Put this end cap back on. I'm going to put just a little bit of lithium grease up on that end there in that bearing. And I mean just a very little bit. And then put the cap back on, screw it back down. Alright, when you're putting the end cap back on, you want to put a pair of pliers on the gear and apply clockwise torque to it, because you want to hold that armature in place as you slide the cap back on. If you don't, it'll just pop right back out. I had pressure on there, but not quite enough, and it spun back out, so I had to reset those brushes again. You don't want to do that twice if you don't have to. Anyway, yeah, just put clockwise pressure on that gear. That'll hold the armature in. You can slide the cap on and put your bolts back in. Then you can put your retainer clip back on your gear, and we are reassembled and ready for reinstall. Alright, well, this is where we see if it was worth doing or not. Go ahead, kick on the switch. We'll trigger by using a magnet. I went ahead and lubed all that up. Remember, I'm just triggering it with the magnet. Well, they definitely seem to be working. Hopefully, it will last a while.
Okay.